Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for being here. On behalf of the Diageo executive, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome. We're delighted you're here, but it's our responsibility, first and foremost, to make sure you're safe this afternoon. This is not a building that you know. There are no alarms. There are no anything planned. So if you hear a signal, it means that something is happening and you will need to evacuate the building. In every room you're going to be in as we move you around the place, there will be someone there with a high vis. If this were to happen, please follow them out of the building. You know not to use the lifts. There are escape stairs on either end of the building. We'll escort you out of the building if there were to be. But it's very important that while you're with us, we make sure that you're always safe. Okay? Cool. This team you know to a large extent. Two new people that I want to call out. Natalie Bickford. Natalie, where are you? Where's she gone? There you go. Natalie joined us from Smirnoff as Chief People Officer recently. And this gentleman here hasn't officially joined us, but Sujay, where are you? There we go. Sujay's joining us from Procter & Gamble on the 15th of August and will be the president in our Asia-Pacific region. So this is the Diageo exec. I'm not going to ask either of those guys to speak to you this afternoon. We'll let them get bedded in a little bit more before we do. But you are going to hear from most of the other people in the course of this afternoon. What are we going to share with you? We're going to share with you a plan that has two very clear focus. A focus on spirits, including RTDs. We see that as one market. We see it as a very robust category, and we think we can grow share in that growing category. And we're going to continue the double-digit growth that we have on Guinness today, and we'll share with you the plans we have to continue that growth and indeed gain more share. The plan we'll share with you will talk about how we very much retain the premiumization capability we have that has created so much value historically, but we are going to broaden and be a little bit more active with our portfolio and allow us to serve more consumers on more occasions as we become more active in category strategies as opposed to just brand-led strategies. You're going to see some of those this afternoon. We're really clear that we have a turnaround to execute in North America, but we need to do that whilst we continue to accelerate the growth elsewhere in the world. And I think very importantly for investors, the way that we're going about this turnaround for Diageo doesn't require us to reset the profit in order to support the plan. You've heard me talk about the need for us to develop a more agile, more competitive operating framework. We've been working hard on that. It's also significantly more cost-effective than where we are today. And we're investing 1.2 billion of restructuring, 1.1 of that in the operating framework work, and another 100 million in the supply chain. We've charged 752 million of that in F26. Cash goes out in 27, and the balance will be spent and committed in 27. That investment saves us $1 billion. Right, about 850 of that comes from the operating framework work, and 150 comes from the supply chain. And the intention is that I'm going to invest that back into advancing some innovation, selectively improving our competitiveness, and indeed protecting that underlying profitability I talked about. I will come back to talk about what I mean by investing in competitiveness, because it seems that everybody thinks that's just price. It's not just price. In fact, it's actually quite a lot of not price activity. You'll see it particularly in the North American plan that John will share with you, but I'm sure we can debate that later. This plan, including the restructuring charge, generates 8 billion of cash over that 3-year period. And with the sale of EABL and the conclusion of the RCB deal, we anticipate the leverage will drop into the middle of the range in 27. And if we weren't to change anything, this is obviously hypothetical, that would allow us to be down at 2, i.e. below our current guidance by 29. That's whilst we increase the capex to 1.25 billion a year for 3 years. And we'll share with you how we're going to spend that. We retain our capital allocation priorities, and as we lower leverage, the board can then explore whether to change the dividend policy or indeed to think about share buybacks. The other thing we'd like to be really clear with you about is the plan that we're sharing with you today is an organic turnaround. Very aware of lots of speculation, lots of things that people write in the marketplace. Being clear, we're not buying, we're not selling. This is an organic turnaround, and we're basically, we have what we need to turn the business around. Finally, I'll share with you right at the end how we simplified the incentive programs inside Diageo to align it to that investment case. So that's what you're going to see from me and the team this afternoon. I think the summary of it is we built a plan we believe in. We're really clear we've got an awful lot of work to do, but we're very confident as we do that work that we can return this business to a very strong, very consistent creator of shareholder value. So how are we going to share that plan with you? This is the agenda. It starts with me, I'm afraid. You've got me for a little while. I'm going to tell you what we've been doing over the last 6 months, particularly as it relates to strategy and particularly as it relates to the operating framework behind that restructuring plan. But then the rest of the day, this is not I remember somebody telling me about previous Diageo Capital Markets Day, this is not a marketing show and tell. In fact, you're going to see very little in terms of pure marketing sizzle reel from us today. We've tried to construct the agenda through the lens of the investment thesis to try and address the questions that you ask us and other commentators comment on. So we'll start with the market opportunity, and Hannah, our strategy lead, will share with you our thinking on how we see this market evolving and the assumptions that we're making about each of the regions over the next 3 years. And then we'll also move to how we think we can win. And that really is the category strategy. So Christina will share with you a couple, and we'll share with you a couple because we've only got time to share with you a couple. And we'll share with you a couple which is with enough detail so you understand what we're doing, but not enough detail that we give anything competitively away. So just be aware, we'll always try and walk that line that we don't give too much away. But whiskey, tequila, RTDs. Then you're going to get a different sort of Guinness presentation. Granny has got massive amount of marketing she could share with you. That's not what she's going to share with you. We're going to share with you the investment plan on Guinness and how it is we're going to drive capacity against that growth agenda. We'll then take all of that work and then we'll go to 2 regions. John, been in North America 3 months. He's going to share with you quite candidly what he's found and what we need to do. It's fair to say our North American business has been underperforming for quite a while. The growth of tequila covered up some of that. We now need to face into some of the realities, and John will share with you exactly what we're thinking, what we're doing, and how we're going to phase ourselves as we turn around the North American business. I've asked Alvaro to share with you where we are in Latin America, because actually of all of the regions in Diageo, the one that's most advanced down the category lens, that's most a reflection of where we're going for the group in total, is actually in Latin America. So some really good and very clear examples of the direction of travel in what it is Alvaro has been leading for in Latin America. Ewan will then, the other question you've asked of me many times is the deployment of capital inside Diageo, and Ewan will take you through how it is not only we're going to deploy that 1.25 billion of capex, he'll also talk to you about working capital, mature inventory, and we'll also finish by touching on how that supports customer service. We'll let Nick bring that all together in terms of the financial algorithm, and I'll pop back up right at the end to give you one slide on the incentive program and how we're changing that. We'll then have the opportunity for Q&As in this room, and then we're going to go downstairs. We've got an innovation showcase for you for half an hour, by which stage it'll be transformed up here, and we'll invite you back up here for a drink all the time, able to answer any and all of your questions. Big thing for me, my team, is we've got to be bang on time because we've got people on the webcast and we need to make sure that we hit. If there is any time in the sessions, we'll take questions, but only up to the limit of the time. Otherwise, we'll do it at the end of the day. Okay? Cool. We've been busy. We have been busy. It's been a busy 6 months. We shared some of this with you before. We started from a very objective review through the lens of multiple stakeholders, how we were performing from a market point of view, from a competitive point of view, a very extensive piece of work. We then, as an exec team, looked at 5 strategic alternatives, so how we would develop Diageo going forward, evaluated all of them, and made one clear recommendation, and that's the recommendation we're going to share with you today. We then worked a lot on what did that mean in terms of a competitive operating framework, and we started some active market testing. As we were thinking about the different strategies, we actually started testing some things, and I've asked Christina to give you a little update on how some of those testings work, because we've been testing our own strategy as we develop it to see whether it's as effective as we would want it to be. That allowed us in April, and you've got three of our board members, the chair, Susan, as Sid, and Karen, who are here today, and you can ask them about it. We took the recommendation to the board in April. They bought into the proposal, including that operating framework I've talked to you about. And actually from that, we appointed the leadership team. So I know people today are talking about announcements going forward. The thing I want to land with you is we're quite a long way down the track in terms of the changes that we're talking about. So the leadership team, i.e. below the exec, was appointed in May. That team of 90 came together in 20 and 21st in Edinburgh, and we shared with them all the work that we had done, all the case for change, all the analysis we'd done, so to recruit them to what it was we were doing together, and then together we designed the last bit of the operating framework, and through June, all of that operating framework was cascaded through the organization, including the budget guidelines that we'd given. And so by the 1st of July, important date for us, we not only had a reset of the strategy, we had targets, we had the operating framework live. Okay? So where we are today, September the 1st, particularly in the go-to-market organizations, we're about 90% of the way implemented. Now, all businesses you cover will have their own frameworks for this. I'm going to articulate it through this lens. You'll see this chart a lot in Diageo going forward. How do we organize purpose, strategy, behavior? How do we operate as a complete entity and the culture that comes as a result of all of that? So I'm going to do this very quickly. It's something that's very dear to my heart. As a person leading a business, the purpose and the way we set the magnetic north of the organization is massively important to me and very important in terms of how I build the right culture. Some of investors love to have that conversation with me, some not so much, okay? So I'm going to go for the not so much, and if you want to talk to me about it afterwards, I would love to. This is the purpose of Diageo, as articulated a number of years ago. It served the business really very well, but there was quite a lot of commentary as we did this. We consulted with a huge amount of people as we did this inside the business, and there was a feeling that this has served its purpose, but it actually wasn't a fair reflection of who we were, and actually now was perhaps a time to move on. And actually, in terms of every day, everywhere, is that where we want to be in terms of responsible going forward? And while celebration is important in our category, it's only 40% of the occasions that people actually engage with our category, and therefore will we somehow limiting ourselves. So the other thing I should say to you is, we don't want as a team, we don't want a purpose that becomes a strapline for the business. We want a purpose that articulates why this business exists, and something that allows everybody that works here can see how it is they make a contribution to that. Here is the new purpose for Diageo: crafting iconic drinks chosen for life's moments. In a good purpose, every word needs to mean something. The element of craft, if you're new to this industry, one of the things you appreciate massively just about everywhere is how much care and craft and skill there is. If I go with Ewan to Scotland and walk all of the capabilities in that estate, it's quite mind-blowing where the craft exists inside Diageo. And if you look at the history of how some of our brands were created, craft is very strong in our business. This idea of iconic drinks, right, very important through the lens of consumers, is the drinks chosen, yes, i.e. to be asked for by name in a bar, but also to be chosen as a partner in customer and all other stakeholders' places. For life, not just for celebration, yes, some little moments of joy, but there are other times when people want to enjoy our category and the moments that matter. Again, it's really important to us. It's important that you know about it. If you want to talk to me any more about it, grab me in the bar later. Strategically, where do we get to? Look, TBA is really quite misleading for us. You come to this market afresh, the fact that we think about all of our targets through the lens of TBA, not appropriate. Not appropriate. The two categories we're in, full price, total spirits, not international spirits or premium spirits, no, total spirits, full price ladder, including RTDs. Right? That's market number one for Diageo going forward. Premium beer with Guinness, market number two. Right? When you get to the analysis of why things are changing in here, it's very different across TBA. TBA doesn't help us. So we're going to be really focused on winning in those two places. And it's going to be non-negotiable across our business that we need to rebuild the capability in the on-trade. Right? It's patchy post-COVID around the world about recovering that. We don't want to leave that to local market decision-making. We're going to drive it through all of our operations. Saw this from me before. I talk about it in terms of differentiating competencies. How do we win? Well, relevant brands, you know a lot about brands, but relevant brands means across a price point, not just one part of a price point, in competitive category strategies. We've given you some examples, you're going to see some more, but a key enabler of this strategy is the ability to do that. The second is that we engage with our customers and our channels in a way that actually, quite frankly, we haven't done before as Diageo. So in how we go to market, how we partner going to market, a really key capability that we need to build. And you'll speak to Ewan later, but the need for us to fully integrate our supply chain end to end. Now, that might seem obvious to some of you, but if I'm candid, where we started from, really quite a big disconnect between the supply side of the organization and the demand side of the organization, a lot of duplication, a lot of waste, a lot of inefficiency. So we need to build these three capabilities to be world-class inside Diageo. The final thing I need to share with you is how do we design deliberately to extract the benefits, the leverage that comes from our scale? Right? We have big, for sure. We have very complicated. Every country is different. Every process is different. I talked about that in the results. If you want to get operational leverage, we need to design for it. So the operating framework is designed in a way that allows us to simplify and scale. As you know, complexity fails, simplicity scales. We've got a design for that, and you'll see that in the model I'm going to share with you in a second. So, what have we done? From the 1st of July, there are 23 country or country cluster organizations, go-to-market organizations, responsible for the sales and marketing of our brands in those geographies. Every single one of them has this organization design. Right? 1st of January this year, every single organization had their own bespoke design. Right? I don't think there's anything particularly unusual about any of those titles. In Diageo, we use commercial. For old people like me, that's sales. Right? What is this organization responsible for? Market share performance in those two categories I talked to you about, and the on-trade reach and capability in their geography. How are we looking for their outcome? The sales growth, the operating profit dollars, and the free cash flow. 23 go-to-market organizations. 5 regions, right? Our 5 regions, North America, LAC, EMEA, Africa becomes part of the European group again. India, we break out, and APAC is everything in Asia, ex-India. Those are the 5 regions going forward. You see here, each region has exactly the same composition. Exactly the same roles in each region. Most of them self-evident. The one you should focus on is the one that says Transformation Director. Each regional business president has one person responsible for driving that consolidation, simplification, back office that's going to be such a part of how we build this operating framework going forward. Okay? So these guys are resource allocation, capability development, and making sure we get that organizational leverage that I talked about earlier. Then we get to the exec. You know this structure. We've got 5 regional presidents, 1 chief marketing officer, so on and so forth. Importantly, all of the global business services, including digital and technology, as one organization, reports into Nick now. Right? Now, I've got one really hard on the eye chart, but it's as simple as I could make it to make the point, so forgive me before I show it. Exec level, regional level, local level. If you think about the capabilities and how we get leverage, if I'm talking about sales and commercial, I've got one vertical. Likewise marketing, likewise supply chain. Finance, people, and transformation. This is where the transformation office comes. People, global counsel, CSO. Again, you probably don't need all of this detail, but the most important thing is we've designed it in such a way that the alignment is clear, the responsibilities are aligned, the measures are all aligned, and the forums are all aligned. I'll give you a tiny little outbit. Friday afternoon, Christina and I sat down with the 4 heads of categories, I'll show you in a second, and the 5 regional marketing. So with 10 people in the room, we were able to lay out the brand innovation plan for all regions for the next 3 years over 3 hours. We've never been able to do that in Diageo because up until now it's been country by country, and that smorgasbord of 1,200 innovation projects is an outcome of the way that we organize ourselves because everybody was pitching for their own individual project. So I'll give you this a little bit more detail. This is Diageo marketing under Christina. There are 4 categories. Those are they at the top. There are 5 regions down the right-hand side. That's the contribution to sales. Interestingly for me, if I have a problem, I don't know, whiskey in Latin America, there are 2 people I need to speak to. And as I say, if I put those 4 people together with those 5 people and Christina, I've got 10 people to run the marketing for Diageo. We've designed it in a way which allows us to have real direct accountability, responsibility, but also leverage. We've created one chief supply chain officer end-to-end, Ewan. In the past, we had different things in different regions. Local supply chain directors. Local now is all about customer service. It's not about running the supply chain. That's with Ewan. He has complete responsibility across the world. Anybody who covers other FMCG players would see that a while ago. But he basically has 5 regional heads, so that matrix works for all of the functions. With 5 people representing each of the regions, he can deliver the globe. Likewise for Nick, 5 finance directors, 1 big global business services, FP&A and control, and the finance expertise. Massive simplification, massive reduction, taking out the duplication. People in Diageo told us we were very, very, very duplicative, very slow, no clear accountability. Actually, when you walk through this with all the people involved in designing it, it's really clear who's responsible for what. Now, this is the bit you might be interested in. So, look, that's that organization. And I've put the numbers on there because otherwise you'll get the proportions, and I know you'll be guessing. So, the total overheads budget we gave ourselves for the destination of this organization is 10.5% of sales. That would put us in the top 25% of all businesses that operate in this space. If I told you today that it's way north of 14, it gives you some idea of the change. If you look at where we deploy, the exec level rounds up to 0.2 of that. The regional teams, excluding the presidents, because they sit in my global budget, 0.2. The majority stays in go-to-market, and the other is global functions, including marketing. So a really clear accountability framework, really clear budget framework. I said to you before, we're nearly complete, particularly in the go-to-market. I think that whilst that was a destination that we wanted to get to in 2 years' time, I think the regional presidents decided that they would want to go all in one. So what you see here is the green. These changes in go-to-market are complete. They're done, they're behind us. What you see in Europe is the consultation process. A legally binding consultation process. It takes a certain time. We have to go through that. It means no problem, we'll do it. It just means that Europe will be slightly later for us to be able to give the certainty that we want to do to our people. But I suppose the thing I wanted to point to is, whilst this is not something we're announcing we're going to do, this is something that actually quite a lot of it, particularly in the country level, is already behind us. Now, some of the things to Nick's area in terms of global business, that will take quite some time. There's some tech enablement, there's all that sort of stuff, so that will take a different time. But the go-to-market ones, done, and we're focused, and everybody started the year in a clear way. Final thing I've got to share with you, and it comes to behaviors. So if you go back to my chart in terms of the triangle, I'm sure that my Diageo colleagues won't mind me saying this because we had this conversation. If you look on the left-hand side in January, we had different programs in our business which talked about purpose, ambition, strategy, enablers, outcomes. We had 4 values. We had 3 leadership ambition areas with all the things you can read here. Again, lots of feedback from our colleagues that this had got really quite complicated. It wasn't clear enough, so on and so forth. Going forward, what we've agreed with everybody, you've just seen what I said about the purpose, you've seen what I said about the strategy. We articulate that actually to bring all of that alive, we're going to focus on three things. Three behaviors in the organization. One team, competitiveness, and decisiveness. I could talk at length. You should ask me and the exec as you engage with them over the next wee while. I think the biggest single one here is team. Right, what this operating framework needs to make it work is we have to behave as a team. Diageo historically has been more fragmented, diffuse, use your language, siloed, some people do, it doesn't really matter. But the exec has to work as a team. I said on my first day in Diageo that I believe that business is a team sport. The exec team need to be truly a team. If I told you that in January, my exec team only physically met twice a year, you'd be surprised, right? Because we had it all so diffuse. This comes back together. Being one team is massively important, and the people that have to demonstrate that most is myself and the exec team in order to demonstrate a completely different set of behaviors going forward. But we don't get the leverage unless we start specializing and relying on other people to deliver, so you don't have your own solution to every problem and that duplication I talked about before. A lot of change and 6 months in sort of 23 minutes or so. But that's to bring you up to speed. That's what we've done in terms of an articulation of purpose, strategy, operating framework, and the behaviors that are going to bring it alive. We now need to get on and do it. As I said at the start, we've got a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of work to do, but we're confident about what we are able to deliver. So that's it from me. I'm now going to pass you over to Hannah, who will take you through how we're thinking about that. So that's the background. Now it's the investment thesis. We'll start with the market opportunity. 2 sections, Hannah first, then Christina, and then we get into some breakouts.